On this special episode of the In2Geek podcast, Allison and I sit down with local paranormal investigator and owner of the historical haunts of Memphis, Stephen Guenther. Our conversation goes between the haunts of America into film, television, and even Zach Baggins. So sit down, relax, and let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to a very special episode. This is the In2Geek podcast's first live interview. We're joined today by Stephen Guenther of the Historical Haunts of Memphis. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course, yeah. And Allison is here.
Hello, everybody.
Unfortunately, Chase could not join us because he had work issues. So, you know.
It happens.
It happens, yeah. He's barely important, so
Gotta pay those bills
fine.
somehow, right?
Yeah, so when I started the show, I wanted it to be about getting into other parts of culture and ways for me to expand being a geek. And to me, if you have a very heavy like of a certain hobby, you're almost like a geek of that hobby. When we got to October, I've always wanted to learn more about the craft of, ghost hunting. And so we started talking and looking at things, and we found your site, and it was really cool. We came and did your tour, which was awesome. I fully suggest anybody who is just looking for something fun to do on the weekend. It wasn't too long. It was maybe like 2 hours or so.
Yeah, 90 minutes, 2 hours.
Yeah, and it was something I'd never done before. It was pretty informative in the very beginning. We walked a couple blocks and hit a couple spots and heard I think 4 or 5 stories.
Yeah.
About certain deaths in old Memphis, and that was really cool to learn. And then we went into your basement and we began to talk to ghosts. So it was cool. So from a person who's watched a bunch of movies, I've always wanted to be in that process.
Right.
So let's get into the really generic question of how did you decide to get into this? Was it one singular event in your life, or was it just a very inquisitive mind of yours?
Well, I think like a lot of people, growing up, I was just, I loved ghost stories. Into Boy Scouts or Indian Guides or whatever, and they're telling the campfire story as a kid, and you get all kind of drawn into these details, and everybody likes being scared. I think the adrenaline that these create, I mean, we thrive on that. It gets us all excited. So I think it started with that, and then when the little mailers would come to the school, like the Scholastic book mailer, I'm like, okay, I'll take anything that's a ghost story and Dracula.
All
and
the goosebumps. Yeah.
Yes, anything you got there. And so it's just all that constant reading and loving the idea of ghosts and spirits and the supernatural and werewolves, just anything beyond my normal life.
Is there any book particular that really turned you on to things? Or is there a certain author that you just really love?
Not really. Each one kind of has a different take on it.
That's fair.
You know. But as you get older, though, you start to see, and it was interesting to me, how many stories and books and things, how much of our culture deals with ghosts.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you go all the way back, there's a ghost story in the Bible, in the Old Testament, about a ghost coming out and talking to King Saul, because Samuel had died, and Saul needed some information, like, what should I do? I'm going into battle. So he goes to this lady who conjures this ghost, and they start talking. And then you go a little further, and you get to Shakespeare, and of course you have Hamlet, which is a perfect ghost story, and then later on, 1800s, you get Dickens, and you get Christmas Carol and the Visitation by the Ghost.
Is it like early 1900s with Shirley Jackson, I guess, with the haunting of Hill House and everything else?
Yeah. So and then you've got today, who doesn't love Moaning Myrtle in Harry Potter? So it's just this huge thread, all across literature, and then today with TV and other media about what happens after death. Could we communicate? And I don't know. I wanted to see if we could. And then for me to answer your question about this specific moment, kind of where it all coalesced, when my grandmother, towards the end of her life, and she was in hospice care. And I was there, and hospice people are really amazing people. It's an incredible job, and they do incredible things. And they not only comfort the people, but they can tell you when they're going to pass. I mean, because they can tell by their body and what's happening. Mm-hmm. And so one day we got the call of you really need to come down. Your grandmother's struggling, and this is probably going to be the day. So my aunt and my mother and I went down. I remember being there, and my aunt was, or my mother, someone was painting her fingernails, and they were kind of singing, and my grandmother was very religious, and they're singing some of the old hymns that she liked. Okay. And then when it looked like it was coming to that time, when her breathing became labored and everything, I was kind of leaning over, the bed where she was at, and as she passed and took that last breath, I know that I felt like something like her spirit leave her body, like just a little wisp of air, you know, because I was leaning over her, and it was so peaceful. Like she just kind of like let go, and I really feel to this day that I actually felt something, and that made me want to explore it more. Like, could I make contact with her? Could she make contact with me? You know, and I'm a parent now. You know, my son's in his 30s and only child, and I think, you know, when I go, like, can I let him know, hey, Dad's, we're cool, I'm good. You know, I'm still going to be watching over on you, or. You hear stories like that. So for me, that was really the event that took all the reading and all the stories and say, I wonder if we can really do this. I mean, it goes back so far, so many cultures, so many different types of stories. Is like, is there a kernel of truth in all this? Because we've been telling each other these stories for so long in so many different cultures and mythologies, and look how many trips through the underworld there are, you know, in different stories with Homer and other, you know, the Epic of Gilgamesh. That's the oldest book we have. It's got a voyage through the underworld. So there's some fascination, and maybe it's narcissism that it can't be the end.
Right.
Certainly, hopefully for me, you know, certainly there must be more. So I think that drives part of it, just wondering, but that was the event that kind of coalesced it all for me.
So from there to where you are now, where you are this like real McCoy, what type of things have you done since then? I guess gives a little bit on your background of like skills and everything, like now at this point.
Well, I joined a group. I was living out in California, joined a ghost hunting group, as most of us say, and started just going on some things with them. So we went to a couple of cemeteries, and just even during the day with equipment, I started to accumulate a little bit of equipment for EMF meters and things to measure energy changes, and then just recording. You know, now like your phone has half the stuff you use on it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, we used to have to buy everything, but you can record on your phone, take a picture, take video.
It's like a backpack. You're just like, you know, a can around of stuff or whatever,
exactly.
basically.
Yeah, you know, it's like, here, let me get my knapsack. So you just start getting equipment, and we got to investigate at the Queen Mary one time. That was kind of cool.
Oh,
that's
cool.
on
Yeah.
the bucket list. And then I moved. I joined a group in Louisiana, and that was kind of a different way that they did things, and some really good people. But you keep learning. And then when I moved up here, I just went to like on Meetup. There's all kinds of paranormal meetups, ghost hunting meetups. If folks are interested, just go and look for a group and go to a free meetup.
Yeah. What led you here to from California?
Job transfer. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
Yep. And I was looking to make a change, and I was looking for just in the South, and it's very. A friend of mine said it best, I guess. If the problem with winning the rat race is you're still a rat, and I was in a very high energy, big city, and it's just like you're so into that it takes a while to step away. And I just wanted to slow down as I was getting older, and just the daily grind was getting to me.
God, I'm 37 and like I'm already done with it. I'm
Yeah.
like I'm already done with this grind. Like, where do I get off?
Well, it's all challenging for everybody right now.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
However
yeah.
you felt in January, it's worse now.
Yes,
but
very, very true.
So I've got a question for you.
All right.
With all of these meetups and these, moving around, did you meet your wife through one of those groups? I know she has
No,
different
actually, we
skills
met
than-
in a different community. We both
Okay.
practiced an alternative spirituality. We're both pagans.
Okay.
And I was at a pagan meetup, and then we met, and she was also I didn't know she came with her own ghost gear. She was like Barbie. Like, she had everything, She can cook,
She
hunt
had her
ghosts.
own enormous knapsack.
Yes, exactly. And pretty soon our knapsacks were, side by side. It was so romantic. But you just find people that you gel with, and
Yeah.
I met her, and just everything we had in common, it was just so extraordinary. I feel like that was like a supernatural thing in my life, to find someone that not only will tolerate your hobbies, but
enjoys them. Yeah.
Enjoys them.
Yeah.
So.
That's great. And I know our guide was telling us a little bit about how you guys do things. She said you're more about the investigative side, the scientific side of things.
Right.
Where Emily is more about energies and spirituality. So how does that work when you guys are doing hunts? Is that...
Well, The group that we have now here in Memphis, we keep it separate. So we have historical haunts investigations. If you go to our website, for businesses and private people, and then we have the tour side. They are completely separate.
Okay.
So we occasionally bring the tour people, but they are more performers and storytellers,
Right.
and they know how to use the equipment. But they're not the same type of people. On the investigation side, we have a lot of professional people. We have graphic arts people. We have IT people. We skew a little older, actually, so we have time and the ability to do some things. And then we may come together and share evidence with the tour people if we get some really cool stuff.
Okay.
But we kind of keep that separately. And then Emily, and we have another lady that is a medium that we work with. And Emily is sensitive, and she picks up on energy and different things. And she's been working with mediums for a few years because it's like a muscle. You got to develop it.
Okay.
So we kind of separate them. So usually we will do, the sciencey part, walking through in groups and taking, baseline readings, checking the energy to make sure that it isn't something construction related. Like there's a bad wiring that's throwing off these meters. So we do that. And then later on or separately, we'll have Emily and one of our other folks go off and see what they pick up.
Okay.
So, and then towards the end, we kind of bring it all together. What have we picked up in terms of evidence? What have they picked up? And then we usually do a session together.
Okay.
So we try and keep them separate. We don't. I can tell you what we don't do is we don't just follow the medium. Okay,
Right.
it's not like on TV of
Right.
children cross over. Let's go this way. Yes, Carolyn. Ooh, good reference.
Yeah, hey.
So we don't do that. We keep it separate. Then we bring it together and see if we can make it coalesce because we're about the story. I mean, some people get into this, the ghost hunting, and we like to say paranormal investigators.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
It's more upscale and bougie, but it's more of what we do.
It's got more syllables.
It's got more syllables. It's got to be more important. But some folks do it just for what we call the Scooby-Doo moment. They want to get scared. They want to have something happen, and then like, oh my God, ah. But yet, that's exactly why you're there. So we're the opposite. Like, we're super calm. Even if stuff gets happening, we're like, okay, this is why we're here. And about creating evidence. Because if you don't have audio, video, a combination of anything, it's still a story.
Right.
And everybody's got a story. I mean, so many people do. And that's okay. And I'm not saying that they're not true. But until you can record it and show other people and then, look at your evidence and see really what you've got, I think that's what people want to know. They want to know as much as they can is concrete and is true. And that might be like 2% of what you do. I mean, hours and hours of tape and video you have to listen to find 2 little clips that you can't explain.
Well, I guess speaking of people that may or may not have evidence, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are just downright like skeptical. I would say to some degree I am as well, but I'm very open-minded about it though. So it's not like I'm closed off to the entire idea of the paranormal. I just like to have proof, basically, whatever. So I mean, I kind of view myself more like agnostic. So I mean, like I'm open to like many types of otherworldly things. I just want to have some kind of evidence to like. I don't take science, but like just like the
You just need something to back it up.
Yeah,
well, I mean, first in terms of science, I mean, there's so much we're learning. I mean, look at what we're learning with the Hadron Collider and about particle and string theory and our ability to see smaller and smaller molecules and particles. I mean, there's just stuff that it's opening up now that it couldn't, and I think that we may see that in this field as well as we develop instruments and things to do that. So we say science. And there's restrictions, but everything gets bigger and wider like all the time. The world is getting bigger. So I think that is part of it. In terms of being skeptical, I mean, we approach it with skepticism. I mean, skepticism is good. The best investigations we go on for private parties typically are people that call us and they say, hey, I don't believe in this. This is not what maybe it's a religious thing or the way they're raised or they're very agnostic about it. They're like, look, I don't know that I believe any of this, but I know what I see or I know what I heard. Can you help us with that and try and document it? Those are the best ones because they're not watching TV. They're not comparing it to a show that they saw. They're not, sometimes people will like self-prescribe, like, well, why don't you use this instrument and look over here? That's not how you do it. You have to look at the whole house and the whole holistic kind of approach to it, the whole property. Then you've got to check to see if you can explain some of it. We were one very well-known big old theater. That's here, a little north of Memphis, and they would say, "Boy, you feel uncomfortable in the balcony and all these sort of thing." But when you go to the balcony, and it's got wiring back to like the early 1900s.
Oh wow!
And it's a mess. And any meter that you put up there just gets these huge, EMF ratings and static and everything else, and that physically can make you feel uncomfortable because it creates a different pressure, like a static charge in the air.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, well, no wonder it kind of feels weird up there, because you have this huge power source. Now, we got some other evidence as well, but you want to debunk what you can, so when you get that little bit that's left, you feel less skeptical. You feel more like, okay, I've checked everything. I have investigated. I've tried to debunk everything that I can.
Yeah.
At the end of that night, we had 5 or 6 of us up on a stage, okay? And we had a videographer there, and he was filming from the seats. So at the end, we kind of always do a session, the EVP session, electronic voice phenomena, where we try and record voices. And one of our members said, "Well, did you know that Elvis played here on this stage?" And I said, And on the recording, each of us had an audio recorder out, plus the video. You could hear this whispered, "Yes." And then you could hear footsteps across the stage. Now, that's 5 recorders, and he's filming. No one's mouth is moving. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So that was something, and we had some other things happen, but that's one where you're like, okay, I can't debunk that one, because we can see everybody's present. Nobody's lips are moving, and
That's
Yeah.
once you eliminate the impossible, whatever else remains, however
Yes.
improbable.
I misquote
must be the
Mr.
truth.
Holmes all the time as well. All of the words are used there, but I'm like, is it improbable and impossible? But yes, you have to eliminate all of those things.
Yeah.
Then what you're left with, even folks that are skeptical or agnostic, you're like, okay, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that we look for.
So is there any specific hauntings or jobs that y'all have done that you kind of think is your best one or like your most memorable?
Well, there's been several, I think, that have been memorable. A lot of times, too, I think this is another misnomer. A lot of times it's cathartic for all the times that you get scared and, you have that adrenaline moment or something is creepy or scary. I like to say startling, because, again, we know why we're there. So I always tell people, look, you shouldn't be scared. You can get startled.
Yeah.
But this is kind of why we're all here,
Yeah.
with all of our stuff. It's like you're at a restaurant, like, oh, my God, they brought food.
Oh, my
yeah,
God.
yeah.
That was the point.
Yes, exactly. But some of the best ones have been with families where it's been like healing or cathartic. One particular family felt like the grandfather was there. Okay, and they had some of their own evidence, and there was a number of generations living in the house, and there was like a little 2 or 3 year old child, and the 3-year-old would like throw a ball into this corner and play and talk, and like there's somebody there, and the dog looks at this corner, and so they gave the kid a little camera. Like, this is back in the day now when you had disposable cameras.
So Polaroid or something.
Yeah, so he's got the little. Yeah, I think he had to develop, but he's got the little play school camera, and he gets some pictures that there's like an energetic, like a light, like a blur, or like a figure possibly. And they had some other things. So we went out there, and the grandmother, I think great grandmother or regular grandmother, I can't remember. There's 3 or 4 generations in the house. But anyway, so we asked these questions, and we're doing EVP sessions, and we're using a spirit box, which creates white noise where you can see if voices come through.
Oh, okay, cool.
It gives them a basis to use. So you're creating energy. It's scanning radio stations at a really quick rate. So you can't get a word on the radio. But if you hear a word or phrase come through, most of us think it's kind of paranormal.
Is that what we were?
Probably.
Okay, it's like it's like a black box, and then like
Yes.
it's just like
And there's
noise.
variations of it.
Okay, cool.
So from that, somebody asked, well, why are you here? And it said to protect. And it's like, okay, because that's kind of what the family thought, that maybe, grandpa, great-grandpa was hanging around, playing with a grandkid or whatever, just letting himself be known. And so then his wife went into the bedroom, and he had passed away at home, and started saying, same thing, like, why are you here? Do you have a message? And all of a sudden it comes through, I love you. So all of a sudden we're all bawling. You got 5 or 6 people in this bedroom, all teary-eyed, and just for them to get closure on that.
Yeah.
And then we were able to actually line up. We had a laser grid in the area, which I think you guys saw here. We put some grid up. We got a picture of a form kind of in there. And we were able to look at the size of the form in a doorway, around a doorway, and match it to the actual height of the person they thought that it was.
Wow.
So, like, we're trying to put stuff together.
Yeah,
we want to figure out who, are we really...
It's like CSI all of a sudden.
Yeah, we're trying to... can we figure out who we're speaking to? Or we always want to know, like, can we make that connection? And is this who that we think that it is? And again, you never know, because you don't really have any, visible, hard evidence in a true, like we like to say we're sciencey, but we're not science. We have a scienciness to us. But that was really cathartic. That was really cool. And we were on one just in the last few weeks that was on the other side. We were using another thing called a portal, and it gets rid of a lot of the white noise, that background, and it's a little more clear. It has a little bit of reverb to it and some other things. But all of a sudden we were getting like these growls and weird sounds that just, guttural like responses to questions. And then it would stop. And then you'd ask a question, and you couldn't really make out like full words, but it was just like that deep growly. That was weird. So we're still working on that one. We have to go back to that. But some, Emily and one of the other ladies was kind of like comforting the mom that was there, and they felt again like they knew kind of who it was. But there were some other spirits there as well. But that was a weird one. We haven't come out with the evidence of that yet because we're still completing it. But just the recordings and stuff I've heard so far, that's some of the weirdest stuff.
Wow.
When you start to hear that. Because we all associate that with something dark, if you will. But I don't know that that's always the case. But that's the first place your mind goes is like, wow. That was not a happy, smiley,
It's like, it just like goes like indigestion, maybe.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But then if it's happy, you're like, oh no, that's a clown then. So there's no easy answer. Happy isn't good. I'm just joking about that. But,
So does everybody on your team have a specific a skill set, or is that the goal to try and get like a really
we'd like to have a good mix.
Round?
Everybody's super diverse. Okay, so age-wise, I'm probably on the oldest end of it, down to some younger people. Probably I would say mid to late 30s is youngest. We have professional people with some major companies in town. We have an IT person. We have a graphic designer, an illustrator. So. The IT people are good with keeping the cameras running, and some of them, like, they build instruments too.
Oh, okay.
So they can actually build, like we have one that's some motion detectors that were just home built by some of our people. And then the other gentleman who's a graphic artist is like a wonder with Photoshop. Okay, not to use it, but to deconstruct it. Because you can tell somebody who's really good at it when you blow it up, but you can see if somebody, the pixels don't line up.
Cropping and stuff or whatever.
Exactly. Because sometimes people go, hey, I got a picture, and they're typically it's something in the mirror or it's something here. Well, he can take it and take the layers and the contrast and say, like, no, that's photoshopped in.
Gotcha.
Or another one, we were at it was a really good picture. It was really freaky. It was at a local restaurant bar kind of sort of environment, and there was a couple, and it was dark, sort of, and they were in a doorway, in a doorway of a restaurant, quick picture, right? And there's this, like, floating head behind him, just like this weird white kind of chalky looking face. It was weird looking. Well, when you Photoshop, you take it apart, and he was able to change the contrast and do some things. You can actually see the person that was walking by and looked over, but they were out of the range of the flash of the picture, so you just got this very little thing. It's like, okay, we were hoping that was something, but it's not.
That's just Tom. Lord.
Exactly, but you got to be able to do that, or everything looks like a ghost, and then you're not really really digging down.
Have you had a chance to go over to like the Orpheum at all? Because I've been told that has a couple of like haunted stories and stuff. That they
have a lot of haunted stories.
Yeah, that there was a girl who got hit by a trolley or something outside, and then there was a repairman, right? That died.
Repairman, I'm not sure. The Mary story is like that's the classic. One of the classics in Memphis. She's one of the top two ghosts, I would say, where people know the story. there's a gentleman there that's the organist, and he has a lot of YouTube videos up of his encounters and interactions with her.
Oh, okay.
So he actually, I could share that with you later. But he's got a lot of things where he talks about where he thinks he's seen her or something has happened. So that you could follow up on that one too, and hear a lot of those stories.
And it was actually really surprising. I had no idea that the Orpheum was kind of like a known haunt. That like when I was online trying to like find sites or whatever, that I found a bunch of people that actually traveled to here just to I can go there and stuff and everything. So I thought that was just like kind of cool.
And from business properties, not everyone wants to be a haunted property.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are some locations that they prefer people don't come and investigate, and you have to deal. There's no set ground rules or anything else. Each group is different, so we tend to approach it a particular way. Sort of sciencey and slow, and try to debunk things as we go. Other people want to just walk out and just like declare it haunted.
Gotcha.
Certified haunted. Yeah. How do you do that?
Yeah.
Right.
I got goosebumps in the hall, so obviously,
must be that.
6 ghosts out there.
Yeah.
So it sounds as if y'all have a more like fair approach.
I think it's fair, and it's about really wanting to know if we can make contact. What do we know? And you're talking about all the nerdy stuff. What about the multiverse? So I know another very well-known person in the field, and he's like, hey, what if part of this is the multiverse? What if we're on the 11th floor of the building, and we don't know there's other floors, and we go to walk, we find a stairway, we walk down, what if the guy from 10's walking up, and all of a sudden we go, hey, who are you? I mean, where'd you come from? So is there anything in the multiverse that sometimes we're seeing things that aren't ghosts of people? Maybe they're something from another...
It's a remnant or something?
Yeah, or another dimension. Or people talk about that with sleep paralysis. Okay,
oh, my God, yeah.
That typically the people see the man in the hat or the hag, or like the two, archetypes of that. And they're typically black and shadowy and such. Well, what if that's a bleed over from something else?
Ooh, okay, yeah.
So we talk about ghosts. That's why I like paranormal investigators. I mean, what else could it be? There's other options, perhaps. I mean, people believe in other created spirits, and Christian mythology, you've got angels and demons, and other people have gods or goddesses, and the Orishas or the Loa, or different faiths have different beings that perhaps they weren't ever human, yet they have attributes and things as a spiritual entity. So it's not really a ghost. So we're always like, what are we finding? Can we figure out what it is? Is it the person? Is usually what we're looking for. But we're open to that. The world is bigger than that, and we don't even know how big it is yet.
It's true.
Absolutely.
It's almost like the ocean. I mean, like we're still learning. I mean,
that's
we've
a good metaphor.
We've only learned 10% of all that and stuff, whatever. So I mean, who knows?
Well, I was watching a BBC documentary on the one of the ocean ones. I don't know if you've seen this one. I think it was on Blue Planet or something. One of those. And there's actually like water at the bottom of the ocean. There's like thicker, heavier, saltier water. Have you seen this?
I've not seen that documentary, but I've read an article about that.
And there's like this eel or little fish that can go into like the heavy water.
Okay.
And so you're looking at water with a water like lake in it, and a fish jumping out of the heavy water into the other water, and you're looking at it going like, I don't even know exactly what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
But I'm watching it. And you think of that as something tangible. Like you said, we haven't explored, even half of the ocean yet.
Yeah,
we don't even know.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was like James Cameron is the only person who's gone down the like farthest, right?
I think so. Certainly
like
very
he went
far.
down like
farthest,
10 years ago or something, whatever.
Yeah.
And like he traveled like I forget exactly how far it was, but it was the farthest on record. It was insane.
Took that Titanic and Avatar money and bought him a nice sub.
I can't talk all of a sudden. Well, took that money and tried to leave, and everything. But so you talked about sleep paralysis. So that will give you my take on the things that happened to me or whatever, and then you can pop it back to me and tell me that it's nothing. So when I was 9 or 8,
it's nothing.
Yeah. all kids have terrible dreams. I awoke and went into my living room to find a figure that was dark and shadowy that was arguing with my mom. And before I could say anything, the figure was on me, holding me into the corner of the roof. And I could feel its grip. I could feel its presence yelling at me kind of. and I woke to my sister, like kind of like waking me up because I was like on my bed, like, violently shaking. A few years later, we moved to here. I moved into my like grandmother's house, and it was like kind of older, so it had a dining room, a living room, a TV room, and a like a front room that had like her piano and stuff and everything.
The room you never use.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're not allowed to set foot in the front room.
Yeah, exactly.
So my mom was sleeping upstairs. My aunt had the other room, and then my grandparents slept in like one room each. So I awoke to hear talking coming from the other room. The light was on, and I went into the room and I looked into the corner where my grandfather has sat for years, and the same figure is there. And it's like almost like a memory happened of me knowing that the last time I was around this thing, it was bad. So I tried to turn and run, and I got to the stairs, and I could feel it hit my ankle and drag me back down the stairs, and I could feel the carpet on my face. I could feel everything, and I once again like awoke to my sister. The last time I was around 14 or 15 years old. I had a friend over. This is like a new house, and how that house was like set up. I had my room, and then a room here, and then this like hallway. All of our floors were wooden. My friend was on the floor asleep, and I like awoke, and I could kind of hear a person outside talking. And I looked down the floor. It was just darkness. I couldn't find my friend or anything. I could hear heavy footsteps outside of the door, and for some reason that like woke me up. But it's one of those times where you think you're like like awake, but you're actually still like asleep. So I'm thinking like, okay, that it was really weird. It was scary. Then all of a sudden the door that was there is no longer there, and the figure is there, and it rushes me. I could feel it get on the bed. I could feel all the weight, and it begins to like violently like choke me. And I'm trying to scream, but I can't talk. And so I begin to hit my mom's wall, and eventually I wake up from my friend. The next morning, I couldn't talk. My voice was on my throat. It felt as if it was like it was very strained. It was like a strep throat situation. I couldn't go to school, but my mom claims that like nobody heard me hitting the walls. And my friend says that they like never like woke me up or anything. And I haven't had one since then, but it was extremely physical. And I don't know, maybe like I was choking myself or something. I'm not sure, but for a long time, I had fears of like darkness and shadows and stuff, and everything. And hopefully this doesn't bring it back. So
No, yeah, but some of that sounds like if you read about sleep paralysis, that generally there's someone sitting on your chest as part of it, and there's the feeling that you can't breathe as well as not being unable to move, and you can read about that, and some people think that is maybe not something physically happening to you, but something like in your psyche that's up there.
Yeah.
But if you read about it, it's across like many generations and cultures and everything, and people tend to see usually like a man in a hat, or they see an old woman, the hag, or like the two archetypes of that. And generally it's sitting on your chest, can't breathe, can't move, can't yell, can't do anything. So you can check on that, but also like it's fascinating to me. When you think about though like lucid dreaming, that you can be in that state where you're part awake and you're part asleep.
It's terrible. Yeah.
Or you think of like other cultures that do a vision quest, or they do dreams. I have friends that have gone to South America to do ayahuasca, do different things. Getting in an altered state, whether it's whirling dervishes, in the Middle East, or different practices that people have. It's about getting into an ecstatic altered state, sometimes through movement and different things, but also you could do it through meditation. So like, what if part of that is just releasing, like you're open, that some of your fears and some of your things are becoming real, and you're having to deal with those because now you don't have that. Like perhaps you dealt with that.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think that even in the human mind, there's things that can manifest and things that we don't understand, again, because we only know a little bit. We only use this very small portion of our brain. And there's other people, to me, like psychics and mediums and folks that have these gifts. I think they're just able to use more of their brain, perhaps, that maybe we all have the skill, we all have ability, but we close ourselves off, or we're too analytical, or we don't listen. But I think a lot of things can happen in like that in-between state, meditation, lucid dreaming, whatever you want to, where you are exploring your own fears, archetypes,
that makes a lot of
and
sense.
things. So I don't know, but I always think that could be part of it.
Yeah.
But the big thing, though, like you conquered it, right?
I hope so. or it's been buried so deep.
Yeah.
Like it
just keep pushing it down and pushing it down.
Yeah. And then like as I'm dying my child, I'm just like now it's your turn.
Yeah.
Like, I pass this to you.
Well, people get attachments. I've seen that where a spirit will attach that to them and just kind of follow them around. But generally, you would know, and then you can have someone do a cleansing or do something to remove it from you. But it doesn't usually manifest like you're talking about. It's gone now.
Yeah.
So if you didn't do anything to get rid of it, that just kind of I would think maybe it was something your mind is working out. And it could have happened as well. But I mean, there's different explanations, and
of course, yeah. It just So is there any like hauntings that you would like to actually go and check out? Any historical areas or anything?
Boy, I guess I wasn't prepared for that. I mean, there's a ton of places. I mean, I like to go to the Stanley Hotel in Colorado. Yeah. We've driven by it. I've been up there. I lived in Colorado for a while, but I never have stayed there or investigated. But it just seems like a really creepy place.
Oh, sure, it does.
And it's old, and the history, and we all know it from The Shining and that sort. But it still seems like it would be a cool place.
I think it's funny that they, after the film, changed the number on the room so that people wouldn't go there for it.
Right.
And then after years, that they actually changed it back to bring back more tourists or whatever and stuff. And everything. Yeah.
I would like to New Orleans, the Laurie House, which
Ooh,
is a very famous haunted house. I don't know if you watched American Horror Story Coven. That year.
I've not seen Coven. I've seen the first season.
They used some of it. It was a very evil and wicked man and woman that lived there, and there's stories of them torturing and mutilating people. And it's a big stop on all the ghost tours you go there. Everybody allegedly that lived there, has all these different things happening. Nicolas Cage bought it for a while and sold it.
Wow.
That sounds like him.
Yes. I'm not saying that's an endorsement, but there's just all these stories for all these years, and there's enough facts buried in there. It's been embellished, obviously.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it were real historical people, and apparently some awful things did happen. Maybe not as embellished as the stories you hear, but I would like to go there. And you look at it, it's very imposing. It has a feel to it. I don't usually say that, but every time I've been by and you stand out there and, go on some of the tours down there, it's just creepy. It just gives you that vibe of this is not normal. This is not a normal place. So that's on my list.
So, God, is it, I forget the artist's name. And Led Zeppelin, one of them bought
Jimmy Page.
Yeah, bought that house because it was haunted and stuff, whatever.
Crowley's
yeah,
house.
Yeah. Are you like that? Or you're this is creepy. I'm gonna buy this and just hang out in it.
I would say no, but I'm not afraid. I mean, we didn't know that the building that we're in, you were recording in the basement where you were for Saturday. We didn't know when we moved in. We were getting ready to move in and working with some friends on some improvements here. And the police walked in and said, "Hey, did you know about the murder here?"
We were just passing by. I thought we could just tell you that.
Yeah, exactly. Have a good day. And they started to tell the story. Then we started to read about it and follow the history on it. And then have this interaction, some of which you experienced. And because of the work we do, I mean, the room that we're sitting in, we have psychics and mediums that come here. They've used this table for table tipping, where the table moves around the room. That chair is out of a haunted location here north of Memphis. Okay, that when they sold it, they gave us the chair. The mirror's out of another investigation that we did where somebody said it was a portal. So we kind of, and we have, as you see, altars and all kinds of things because of our spiritual practice. And we have a lot of folks that use the space. We have folks that practice Santeria or voodoo or witchcraft or whatever that meet Nothing nefarious, they're spiritual paths, but the idea is they work with ancestors, they work with spirits, or they work with other people. So I just think this is a friendly place. This is like a free zone for we always say good spirits who want to be here, who only want the high vibrational spirits, working on our best interest and whatever. Nobody bad is welcome here. And but it's active. About once a month we have somebody walk in just randomly in the store, and they'll be like, I'm a psychic, or and you got a lot of people here. We're like,
see you later.
Yeah, we're all cool, And sometimes they'll want to come down. But even Emily and I just moved. Even in the house, we're like, I wonder if we have any spirits here. And but at the same time, they're kind of welcome in a way. Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't freak us out, And when you're around people who are sensitive. And mediums and things that can communicate with the spirit world, it's like spirits just come to them because they're like, you can hear me. Mm-hmm. They have to learn to turn it off. Or people just chatter all the time. So it's very interesting. Once people are open and there's an environment, I think that you can welcome activity in a sense. So you can say okay, this is a free neutral zone here. We're all good. Everybody behave, and we can hang out and
keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah. Don't mess with the dog. Just don't make them bark. So I would not be afraid of that. If people said it was haunted.
Do you think that movies and television give the paranormal a bad name? Because I mean, do you think like in your own experience that more often than not the spirits are more positive, and so but instead on film it makes everything look just evil with bad intent. It's very
a friend
malicious.
of ours said it best, that she's a very well-known investigator, written several books. She's been on every show on tons of networks, and she said you find what you look for. If you're out there looking for
that's
for
true in life, I think too.
Yeah. And she said part of it is that if you're looking for something dark and nefarious, you're probably going to find it. And we just typically don't. I think there's more healing, more. I don't know, solving of mysteries sounds like the Scooby Kids, but no, but trying to figure out who's there and why they're there. Are they connected to the land, to the building, to the family? It could be any of those things. Even if you go to a house today, we'll get, calls. We check the history. We want what was there before. This may not be attached to your house from 1979. Okay, it could be well before that. It was tons of things for 100 years, or more. So I think we get stuck in this paradigm of a house or something, and it's deeper than that. So I don't know. It's just it's different. But TV does people expect certain things.
Yeah.
You and I were talking before we recorded that on TV every 7 minutes or so before a commercial, the music cues. Somebody turns their head and goes, "What? Or did you hear that? Or dude, run!" Or there's
a plate flying across the room or something. Yeah.
Well, that could be 4 hours of filming that's edited to this one event, and that's what we see. I mean, you're filming, you're recording, then you've got to go home and listen to all of it, and maybe you've got 2 little 4-second clips of something out of hours and hours of evidence. So it's ghost fishing, not ghost hunting.
Yeah.
We tell people, and sometimes you can't be ashamed that there's nothing.
Yeah, but I mean, I would assume that in most instances, those clips kind of make it worth it, though, right? Because you were there for so long, then you got this. You're like, okay, and it just kind of reaffirms everything for you.
Right. That's the best part, but it's not as immediate gratification as you tend to see. Also, I think it's sensationalized on TV. A lot of it is dark and nefarious and demons, and we hear all these kind of words, and it's super good TV, man. It's good TV, but it's not necessarily what you're going to find all the time.
So we were talking about film and TV and everything, whatever. So I think for most people listening, most of our experience comes from watching really bad movies and stuff.
Right.
Is there any film or show that's kind of gotten it kind of right, or are they all just really bad and absurd?
I tend to, I like the old Ghost Hunter show and Ghost Nation and Kindred Spirits. That team, we got to watch them work a few years ago, they're good. I mean, it's sciencey. It's not fantastical. It's interesting. I mean, but they go hard at it, and they were doing their own evidence review, so we tend to lean more that way. And I think that show, those shows, they have a good way about them where it's never they're usually not dark and nefarious, and they're trying, just like we do, find out who is it and why are they there, what are you trying to tell us, So, but some of the other ones are just paranormal lock. No, I won't say that. I don't even. I think that's the name of a show. But it's the people that go in like we're going to lock ourselves in overnight.
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay. First of all, if we think it's a spirit of a person, they're outside space and time. Okay, right?
It's 10 o'clock. It's time to like start like scaring people.
And people say that too. Well, you need to be there between midnight and 3 at the witching hour.
The witching hour. Yeah.
Yes. My question is always, what time zone?
Yeah.
If you're
just like Gremlins, it's like it's always midnight somewhere.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
So I think some of that becomes superstition and things that you cling to like that, like a black cat or walking under a ladder or the witching hour between 12 and 3. Like, spirits don't have a watch. They don't even understand. They're not in time. So I think some of the shows, people get like kind of false feelings about certain times or certain events or things that happen, that maybe aren't completely true. And sometimes we have to rule some of those things out.
Yeah.
Then some is just practical. We were at one, it was a business. they heard like strange knocking on the walls, some of the people that worked at night, right? Well, we went, we investigated. And we had a couple things we thought were interesting, okay. But at the end of the night, when there's the building's quiet, and there's just us in there, and we had one other person that's a construction person, and I grew up in construction. They had a drinking fountain on the wall, right? Well, you don't know where the pipes ran, so this knocking sound they hear is clear around the other side of the building. But we finally figured out it's when you get water that there's a pipe.
Oh, wow, yeah.
That's like, okay, that's not a Scooby-Doo moment. We figured it out. That wasn't it. That we could explain that for him. So sometimes it's something totally obvious, and you rarely see that on TV where somebody goes, "Oh man, it's a pipe." They don't show you that part.
And like you especially don't see it on any like Zach Baggins shows, where it's all it's all demon stuff. It's all evil. So
it's a portal to hell.
It's a portal. Yeah. Watch that 9. Yeah. So do you think that he has hurt the paranormal field, or that he's helped things because he's so popular? Or, like, how do you view him, I guess?
Well, I think that anything that gets people interested in the paranormal, and by that I'm going to say of seeing the world as being bigger.
Okay.
If it has that effect, I think it's a good thing.
Okay.
I struggle with anyone who makes it too sensational or puts, like, fear on people. So that any little thing that happens, they automatically think from TV that, oh, it's a demon or it's a portal to hell, or everybody wants to go to like the worst place. We all do that. It's human nature. Like, God, I hope it's not cancer. Or I hope I have a cold. Okay, I have a cold. And I think that people do that even in that realm. Some people almost want it to be, in a sense, their 15 minutes of paranormal fame.
Yeah. Okay.
So and they see that as possibly available, but it's not necessarily a good starting point to assume that what's happening is some hugely supernatural thing.
Have you heard that he is supposed to go to Carol Baskin's zoo to try and talk to the dead tigers and possibly find her husband?
That is a perfect match. Not since chocolate and peanut butter. No.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I know. It's like he's that type of guy. He's almost
that's like Dr. Doolittle.
Yes.
Too. So
right.
You're in the paranormal realm, but I also have to be able to talk to the animals, like Rex Harrison and a ghost. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying, man, that's
funny because
on the edge.
I almost view him as the like Criss Angel of the ghost hunting world, So like he's very popular, but like almost nobody else respects him, even though he has a lot of fans and stuff and following and television shows, but it's like almost everybody thinks that he's this like over sensationalized person kind of.
Dude, I just saw Criss Angel last year.
Oh,
now
really?
You're shaming me. No. But okay, let's mix those two together. Okay, let's mash up. One of the reasons I like Criss Angel, if you used to watch any on Mind Freak, his old show, and he had 1 or 2 episodes where he took like these D-list celebrities, okay, like the stunt double from the third guy on the Brady Bunch that was the mechanic or something. And when he found these people, wow, you're just mean. Dude, Sharknado is classic.
You're right.
Classic.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not Velocipaster.
So, but he takes these D-list celebrities to places, and he uses just stage magic. Okay. But he weaves it into this narrative about something is haunted and there's a spirit here. These people are screaming and crying, and so I was just fascinated by his ability to like captivate them and like just get them so ramped up in this. But if you watch it, like I hugely like stage magic too. To see what he's doing, I'm like, okay, I've seen this trick a bunch of times in different ways, but in the context of what he's doing, it's really scary. But I like Criss Angel for that.
I like magic also. So
and he just says, look, at the end, he's like, it's fake. Like, this is all fake. I just faked you, but yet everybody is just, going crazy. So that's probably a good metaphor, I guess. I could see both of them kind of being seen as fringe, sort of on the outskirts. Not the classy ones, but it doesn't mean they're not enjoyable or anything.
Soap opera-esque or whatever.
Yes.
You give me a name? Yeah, good. You're okay.
I think I asked the questions.
Okay.
I'm just like so intrigued. Everything you're saying sounds.
We
so
were actually really surprised at how great your shop is. It. I fully expected it to just be like a room, and we would just be led on the bus or something. Instead, it's got all types of just really great stuff in there. We were driving here, and they were like, man, if we had known, we'd be broke. There's so many cool things, and then it's also it's very fairly priced as well.
Well, thank you for noticing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, okay, shameless plug. The shop is, the Broom Closet on South Main, 546 South Main. It's a metaphysical shop. And so you do find things that are, I would say, sort of, I'm going to use the word new age or metaphysical, with stones and candles and incense.
Incense and crystals.
Which are super popular right now. It's very important because we're all on lockdown. Everybody is into self-care. So if they can, incense makes their house smell good. They might want to buy a candle on a particular thing for healing or peace or something. And the stones, people may carry one. The particularly attribute might be about protection or love or something. So even if you don't want to ascribe to magical properties of something, it still is something they can hold on to, and it makes them think about that. They think about the health or whatever they're trying to do or protection. And then there's other things in there where we, have products and things for all different paths, depending on what your religious practice is. Mm-hmm. So it is very broad. So we've got sort of kind of the metaphysical stuff. Then you get into people that come in and practice, various things. So
because I bought a goblet. And I swear, I mean, for a year or two, we were playing D&D, and I wanted a really cool cup. I was and I looked everywhere, and I couldn't find any, and so I just quit. I was like, whatever. And then we came in, and you have a whole shelf, and I was just like, oh my God.
He was so excited.
I was super excited.
Okay.
Yeah.
Crossover, talking about geek stuff.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, part of it, my son's a big gamer.
Okay.
So when he came, he's like, I need the Cthulhu goblet because he plays Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, let me in. So, and they have the Necronomicon Tarot, which goes with that.
Yeah.
So I just outfitted his game thing for his D&D. So some of it is just, there's this huge crossover between, I think, a lot of the geek culture and alternative spirituality and different things. And
Absolutely.
People, and they're kind of, I don't want to say they're coming together, but it tends to be the same type of person that's open and has an imagination and sees the world bigger and broader than.
Do you remember in the 80s the Satanic Panic? With D&D and everything or whatever, and music and everything. And
I lived through that.
Yeah,
and then
Tom
later
Hanks'
on,
terrible movie,
right. Half the people were debunked afterwards, and just said that it was complete fabrication. And anytime, I know people that perhaps would say that they were Satanists, or another word is to say left-hand path, they would say, or they work with Baphomet, or they, maybe some different things. And that's their religious practice. It's not like on TV at all. I mean, we were somewhere in this group of people that identified as Satanists, and just normal adult people like my age, and they're talking about how much money that they raised for this women's shelter. Yeah, I'm like, we are being shamed.
I think on film it's always viewed as this like evil practice, when in actuality it's not really like about that at all.
Well, a lot of them today, they're agnostic or atheists.
Yeah,
and it's more humanistic and empowering.
Yes, it's
of
more
the
about
individual
exactly,
and individual freedom. It's not like on TV, and then you get shows like Sabrina is like look at use that as an example.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So fun to watch. I mean, it's a super fun show, I think. But they say that it's witchcraft. But the big statue they have is they actually were sued. You know,
I was gonna say,
by the Satanic Temple for because of the design of the statue. So they take and they blend what they say is witchcraft, but then they add all this other stuff on it, and so that's bad for a lot of people that think that's what witches do. And it's like no, that's TV. That's not.
Yeah, it's like one of my favorite shows, Supernatural. They go to like
it's a good one.
They go somewhere and it's like a movie set or something, and they notice that there's all types of like pagan symbols and like certain god symbols, and it's all about basically what like it looks good on screen. It's not about what's real and stuff. So I mean, like I can fully see just random shows or random movies, just like having like all types of just like mixed, things and everything, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the obvious one of that is the pinnacle, the pentagram.
Yeah.
Like that just instills fear in the hearts of millions, and they don't understand it's nothing. It represents the four elements: earth, air, fire, and water, and spirit overall. That's it. And there's other things of that, but it's not nefarious. And everybody's like, well, what if you turn it upside down? I don't know that it's upside down. And some people use that for,
it's got a this side up symbol on it. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's so much ascribed to that in a movie when you see that, like, oh my God,
Which I mean, like there had to have been like one specific movie that is like really like, I mean, like I don't think it was in like The Exorcist, but I mean, like I'm sure it was done like a certain film or something, and now like it's just like in like everybody's head that's like just evil or something.
Oh shoot! Well, back in the day, I mean, you had Rosemary's Baby. And you go way back to some of that, Bell, Book and Candle, and some of the old ones like that were the first expressions of witchcraft or something alternative were presented.
So since it is October, did you have any favorite like horror movies or anything that like you just like
okay, you want to know something really weird? Like I like old school scary movies.
Okay.
I don't like do horror movies.
Really? Okay.
I know it's weird. Everybody's like totally surprised by that, but I don't like a lot of the modern stuff that I consider like torture porn.
Oh, I don't either.
Okay, yeah. I don't do any of that. I'll watch some, and I enjoy it, but I want a good jump scare and I want to have a good story.
Okay.
Like I thought The Witch was pretty good. It was slow, but it was a good story. Gosh, The Conjuring was good.
Have you watched The Haunting of Hill House? On Netflix.
Yeah, I thought it was okay.
It's okay. Yeah. So that director is pretty good. He has a very like classical sense in terms of like horror and pacing or whatever.
Right. I prefer that. Some pacing. And build. I like the tension.
He has a few films on Netflix. One of which is called Oculus. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have not seen that. No.
So that one is about that. There's this mirror that is linked to all of these murders and deaths, and so that they find out that basically every home that this mirror's ever been in, at some point the family turn on each other, like died and everything. So the story though is about this family that buys the mirror, and so it's this past and present style approach where you watch them being haunted as kids, and then as adults, how they've dealt with it and stuff and everything. So it's pretty good. The ending's a little lackluster, but the ride is great. Very good.
Mirrors are a thing because mirrors are considered often portals and things can come back and forth. We did an investigation in another city close by, and it was a lady who was known like in the 50s to 80s about, I'm guessing here from what I was told, and she was called like the Witch on the Bluff. And there was mirrors everywhere, and they said like that was her portals, and people would come to her for readings and different things. But she had this elaborate thing so that spirits could come and go, and that's why we have that one here, that we have in the corner.
Yeah.
So mirrors have their own sort of mythology already.
Very cool.
You're all freaked out. Like the classic, where you're watching in the mirror and the reflection moves differently.
Sure.
There's so many tropes that are in mirror.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that little kernel,
they're all great.
that little kernel of truth. Of that, or in different practices, people scry in a mirror. So you have a mirror, a black mirror, and you put a candle, and you use that to as divination to look into it and see if anything forms, similar to a crystal ball. So I think when you hear mirror, like a lot of people already have a story or something about that's creepy, or they heard about that.
Yeah.
Or,
So I guess my final thing is, if anybody was looking to get into paranormal investigation, I will stop calling it ghost hunting because it sounds much
Mm-hmm.
fancier. Where should they start? Should I mean, because I would assume you don't want people just randomly like going in like old buildings and stuff and like
no,
falling down mine shafts.
No,
or
we've
anything.
talked about that for years. Like we do a lot of conventions, like Comic Cons and different things like in the area, and like Ghost Hunting 101. We do workshops all over. That's one of the things that you have to be safe. You have to protect yourself. I mean, spiritually, whatever your spiritual path is, say a prayer, or do something to the deities or what you believe to protect you and that sort of thing. And then you have to be safe in terms of get permission. Don't go anywhere without permission. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't go anywhere unsafe. If the building says condemned, whatever, don't go there. Don't try and be a hero, because every once in a while you read a story where there was one a couple years ago, somebody died because they fell through the second floor of a dilapidated house. You need to be careful. Get with a group of people. Like I said, you could look in local publications, alternative publications that might have ads, or you can get on meetup.com.
But Reddit maybe or something as well.
But find some local people and hang out, and then start reading. I know nobody likes to do that anymore. I'm the old guy in the room. Don't watch the YouTube video for 7 minutes.
Buy more books, kids.
Read the book. But it gives you more details of what tools are we going to use? What are we going to go? What is our process? How do we evaluate our evidence? How do you put the whole thing together? Or you just end up with a bunch of stuff that it's like a puzzle that you're not putting together. So I think find other people that are more experienced,
Gotcha.
and be safe.
You had mentioned that the telephone now, it basically has a lot of the tricks needed, or the
you got a recorder, a camera, a video. There's other things you can put on there.
What's something else that like a person could buy that wouldn't like break the bank on them?
Well, an EMF meter is like your first one.
What is that exactly?
It is electromagnetic fields.
Okay.
They were designed initially for construction, because it would tell you where you were either had exposed wiring or maybe something frayed, because you would read this, or to measure around microwave back in the day when they first came out, like you were going to make sure that it was sealed right and the stuff wasn't escaping or whatever. It was a construction tool. But it basically tells you if there's any change in the electromagnetic field, which we believe that spirits are energy. That energy in a closed system can't be created or destroyed. So when we die, does our energy, our essence, our soul, whatever, the thing that makes you,
okay,
and me, what happens to that? Does it just transform into something else? But does the energy stay as some type of form that we can measure? So that's why generally people use EMF meters or static meters. There's a lot of stuff that you can just repurpose. Okay, like we use trail cameras.
Okay.
If they go on sale, like at a sporting goods store, they'll take a video, or they'll take pictures. They're infrared, most of them, and you can leave them. And we've got some really good shots on those, because you can leave it and walk away. And if there's movement or anything, it's going to take a shot. We have used motion detectors. Like you can buy a little set of a couple, motion detectors, battery operated, that have like a little clicker, like your door on here. For like $12. Well, it's great. I mean, you can put them up somewhere, like upstairs if you're working downstairs or whatever, but you can set all these little traps. And one of the greatest things we use, I mean, it sounds really stupid, is cat toys that light up. So these they're motion activated little cat toys, and they're very inexpensive, but you can put a perimeter up. Sometimes we'll run them down a hallway. Like we were at one where the local business, and people were saying, well, they at night when there's nobody around, the people that are there by themselves or a couple people feel like there's somebody walks up and down the hall, right? Well, we were able to put a whole string of these things out, different motion sensing devices, and go off one by one, come back, and then we take them and we scramble them, move them around. We want to make sure that it's not the ball or the instrument itself.
Yeah.
So you're constantly moving things around like an experiment, changing variables. Okay, but I mean, those are very inexpensive. So you can get a lot of little stuff. That, like the other thing with the light up motion stuff, it's easy to film. So if you're filming and something happens, there's a light, there's a sound, and you can get there for not a lot of money.
I mean, I'm sure that like when you first started, y'all actually built a lot of your stuff also. I mean now
I didn't. I have one thing in my toolbox, and it's a checkbook. but other people who are most skilled, people
Yeah.
who knew what Radio Shack was, or other
Gotcha.
places
Oh,
where
man,
you
Radio
would,
Shack.
where you would build stuff. Yeah, oh yeah, we got guys in our group and they make stuff. I'm like, I don't even know how that works.
Yeah.
I don't even understand it.
Because I guess now like maybe there's a couple of companies that try to like make like cheaper versions of that, but I'm sure like originally guys were just building like certain things and stuff and
Yeah.
items and all types of things or whatever.
Static detectors are easy if you know how to do it. There's a bunch of little ones that are very inexpensive that you can tell are like 3D printed cases and a little circuit board. It's just beyond my personal knowledge, but
Very
That's
cool.
really
Well,
neat.
thank you so much. This has been
My
a lot
pleasure.
of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any last things to say, Allison?
I've just really enjoyed this whole experience. It's really fun listening to you talk about this.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah.
well, thank you for the opportunity to talk about it, and just
Thank you
to
for taking
all-
time out for us.
All
I
the
mean-
listeners, just expect the world to be bigger. There's more out
Fair
there.
enough. I like that.
And always be looking.
Guys, Historical Haunts of Memphis. Just come in, start talking to Steven. just start asking him all questions and everything. The tour is great. It's very informative. It's not too expensive. I was fully expecting to pay a lot more than that, and so it was great. I was like, oh wow, this is really accessible. This is awesome. Yeah. And then if you just want to do something kind of just fun and different, come and be open minded.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the website is
historicalhauntsmemphis.com.
.com.
And add to that, especially if you're local, there's a lot of good historic stories that even the locals don't really know. They've been kind of buried in history and other
Yeah.
things. And it's interesting just to learn about your town and like the little the oddities that happen.
Yeah, I've learned
learning
several
about
stories.
the graveyard and stuff. It was crazy. Like the idea that there was just all these headstones and stuff and everything, and it just got buried over.
And nobody had seen poltergeist yet, so they didn't know that you couldn't. That you had to move the bodies. And
You
the
didn't move the
headstones.
bodies. Yeah.
Yeah, without that to reference. No, there's all kind of cool stuff like that in stories. So it's also kind of like just getting to know the quirky side of your hometown.
Awesome. Thank you so
Very
much
cool.
for joining us, guys. Come check it out. We had a couple of people from out of town, didn't we? In the group. So
Yep, I think they were from Chicago.
yeah, it's
Yep.
worth checking out if you're in Memphis. historicalhauntofmemphis.com.
Historical Haunts Memphis.
Haunt Memphis. Excuse me.
You'll find us. The mighty Google will find
can't
it.
read my own handwriting.
The Oracle will find it.
When Allie makes the social media
Yes.
posts, I will put the correct
I still
website.
call them TikToks. So. Stephen, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.